This is all propaganda. They said it to my face.
In the United States, I think most people still are glued to CNN, and anything they say is absolute truth.
Emerging countries that people say, and why people move to cities, is because they say in the village that education is bad, and they blame in part politicians on wanting to retain power by having uneducated people. And yet you look at the United States, for example, it has some of the lowest education scores in the Western world. Are people really being educated there about what's actually happening? Because people are now voting for the AOCs of the world. That's who they're bringing in.
Well, the answer is absolutely not. And the problem that we have with school is, first of all, go back to the origins of school and look what school was designed for, and that will kind of help you understand what's the problem today. But the big problem is that what do people need to be educated in? That's a good question. What they're being educated in, I think, probably past 6th, 7th grade, you've learned what you need to learn. You've learned how to read, write, do arithmetic, math, etc. But they're not being taught to think. They're being told what to think. They're being told to memorize and recite. As a matter of fact, we see this on memes. I saw a meme yesterday on Twitter, and even magazines have run front page. Do not do your own research, they tell you. And
just follow.
People are dying because they're not obeying what the government says. And so they're literally, school takes that creativity, takes that critical thinking away from you. And it's interesting. I was listening to a podcast, and it was with NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, which is what a lot of marketing people use. And it's a way you can kind of hypnotize people, get things to go through from the conscious to the subconscious. And it's a certain way that you talk, certain way you say things. And they have these practitioners, and they have these like master certified practitioners who are on the podcast. And they were talking about how the media in the United States was using NLP techniques to literally hypnotize or brainwash the people. Like literally. That's why people recite these mantras that they don't have any factual basis for. And what they said is that it's only gotten easier and easier because the people are getting more dumb and more dumb. The school is teaching people just to take in information and accept it without thinking about it. And that just makes the programming that much easier.
People, again, from Eastern Europe will say, our media, that's what they do. It's all propaganda. I was on a show in Eastern Europe a number of years ago. The person literally told me, we don't do anything truthful here. This is all propaganda. They said it to my face off the camera. Is it really that much different anymore between the West and these countries? I know you're not supposed to say that.
It's not, but people still think it is. And so I haven't done near the travel that you have. Most of the stuff I do is in remote surf places. But I did talk to somebody from China, and they kind of said the same thing, which is, why is everybody watching the news? Everybody in China knows the news is just propaganda. We don't watch that. But in the United States, I think most people still are glued to CNN, and anything they say is absolute truth. And actually, there's another study that came out. It was actually Jordan Peterson, and he was talking about how I think Democrats see that I think they think the death rate is like 50%, where the Republicans think it's like 10%. That's literally the difference because of where they get their news sources from. So that was pretty interesting. I was just at a conference yesterday. I saw Tony Robbins. It was Saturday. I saw Tony Robbins speak, and he was saying he was throwing out stats, and he said, the number one group of people that are hesitant about these policies, we'll call it that, are PhDs, not MBAs, because they're just taught to recite, memorize and recite, but PhDs, because PhDs have to come up with their own theories, and they can think outside. And so it just kind of illustrates the difference of where you get your news, obviously, and the difference of just memorizing and reciting versus thinking for yourself.
This is your voting class. But to China, you said China, or you perhaps shared, China banning Bitcoin shows that they're afraid of Bitcoin. They've banned it again. Yeah. Why do you think that is? Why is China doing this? I suppose they're a legacy brand, just like the U.S.
What I love is that I think this is like the 7th official time that China has actually banned it, maybe the 7th or 8th. And if it didn't work the first time or the second time or the third time or the fourth time or the fifth time or the sixth time or the 7th time, like what makes you think it's going to work now? And again, back to just kind of those late stages of a country, right? It's that capital control. The more they're losing, the more they try to hold power. And so to ban anything shows that they're afraid of it. The fact that they haven't do it 7, 8 times shows they can't do it. But what's interesting is, if the government tells you, hey, don't do drugs, that doesn't make you want to go do drugs. But when the government tells you, you don't have the right to store your wealth in a way that we can't confiscate and steal it from you, well, shoot, that makes me want to go do that. Right? Just like we see in the U.S. every time they talk about taking guns away, gun sales go up. And so that's what's happening in China. I think the more they try to crack down and the more incompetent they look, and this is what's really happening, this is an interesting trend. In the United States or in Europe, they said that the ECB said they want to ban anonymous crypto wallets. Okay. Good luck, because I could literally create like 100 million while I'm talking to you right now. They're digital. And the more that we see these digital technologies like Bitcoin and technologies built on Bitcoin, I think we'll see governments continue to try to crack down on them, but it's only going to make them continue to look more incompetent and more useless. And I think it's going to be this interesting contrast to watch.
Isn't the benefit of China, of Russia, perhaps even El Salvador, is that we don't trust the media? We don't trust the government. We're not going to wait for their cue. We don't think our passport's the best. Isn't that, in a sense, an advantage that they have, whereas what we call the legacy brand countries have people lulled into a sense of security? And that's why perhaps they don't want to take advantage of competition, because they don't think they need it.
Well, they don't need it, right? They're the pretty girl at the ball, the pretty girl at the dance, and so they can be mean and rude or whatever, right? And so that's exactly the stance of California, unfortunately, and it's actually come out of the governor's mouth, right? Like our weather.
Where are you going to go?
Our weather is so good, right? Our stuff is so good, people will just deal with it. And the honest truth is, Andrew, it's worth a lot. California is so good. It's worth paying a lot of money for. But everything has its breaking point.
Don't stop now. We've got well over 1,000 more videos here on YouTube for you to watch and learn how to go where you're treated best. And if you want to work with Nomad Capitalist personally, go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply, learn about our unique, tried and true process, garnered over years of experience, and learn how you can become our client.